Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, April 2nd, and we are on AMI Day 9. So we'll get started. I'll start with some announcements. In yesterday's video for AMI Day 8, I showed you on Google Classroom how to send me a direct message on Google Classroom, but then we found out that you as a student can only post where everybody can see. So if you message me on Google Classroom and ask for something like your password to iStation or your school email and password. If you ask me things like that other people don't need to see your passwords, because you can't message me directly, just message me on, if you want to message me on Google Classroom, message me about your password. Everybody's going to be able to see that you asked for your password, and then I will message you directly with your password. And when I message you directly, nobody else is going to see your password or anything like that. So if you have a question or you're asking for a password, you can post it on Google Classroom and everybody's going to see that you asked for it, but I will message you directly so that not everybody sees what your password actually is. So when I reply to whatever your question is, if I message you directly, nobody's going to see the answer. So if you ask for a password, nobody's going to actually see what your password is. So just to clear that up, as a student, you can only post where everybody can see what you ask on Google Classroom. So today we are doing AMI Day 9's work. And as always, it starts with math. So we'll go ahead and get started with math. Today's option 1, you are still sitting at home and realize that you want to bake some cookies for your classmates. You use the following recipe to make 24 cookies for your classmates or yourself. So then it gives you a recipe for cookies. It says to make those cookies, you use 1 1/3 cups all-purpose flour, half a teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, half a cup of butter softened, 3/4 cup white sugar, and half an egg, half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then it tells you, so that's the recipe that you're going to be working with for this math problem. Let's see, math work. So this is where it's going to tell you what the problem actually is. You decide you need to triple the recipe to make 3 full batches so that more friends get cookies. So rewrite the recipe to make 3 times the amount of cookies. So what it's wanting you to do is to take that recipe and triple it so that if you were to actually make it, it would make 3 whole batches of cookies. So what you're going to, in order to solve that, what you're going to do is you're going to start with each part of the recipe. So first we'll start with the 1 1/3 cups of all-purpose flour. So 1 1/3. Okay, so that's 1 1/3 cups is how much you would use if you made 1 batch of cookies. But you want to make 3 batches of cookies. So what you're going to do with that 1 1/3 is you're going to say 1 1/3 times 3, because you're going to make 3 batches of cookies. So it's going to look like that. And then you're going to have to solve that in order to know how much all-purpose flour you're going to use. So 1 1/3 times 3. So one way to figure that out is to break it apart. So you do 1 times 3 and 1/3 times 3. And so it would look like this. 1 times 3 and 1/3 times 3. So we know that anytime you multiply anything by 1, it's the number itself. So 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 3 equals 3. And then 1/3 times 3. So before we were all quarantined, we were learning how to multiply and divide with fractions. And one thing that we learned to do is with multiplying a fraction by a whole number. So here I have 1/3 times 3. So all we have to do to multiply 1/3 times 3 to make it easy is we can take our 3 and we're just going to put it over 1. Because anytime, like 3 over 1 is equivalent to 3. If I had the number 4 over 1, it'd be equivalent to 4. 5 over 1 would be 5. So all you have to do is put that whole number over 1. And then remember, when we multiply fractions, when we multiply them, we multiply straight across. So I'm going to do 1 times 3, which is 3. And then the bottom is 3 times 1, which is 3. So 1/3 times 3, 1/3 times 3 equals 3/3. So now, after I've multiplied both parts of that, I'm going to add them together. But first, let's look. 3/3, how many times can 3 go into 3? Anytime you divide a number by itself, it equals 1. So 3/3 is equivalent to 1. So your answer to 1/3 times 3 is 1. So now you're going to take your answers. 1 times 3 is 3. 1/3 times 3 is equivalent to 1. So 3 plus 1 equals, you're going to add your answers together. 3 plus 1 equals 4. So all I did was I broke apart my mixed number here, and I did 1 times 3 and 1/3 times 3. When I did 1 times 3, I got 3. When I did 1/3 times 3, I've got 3/3, which is the same thing as 1. So then I added my 3 and my 1, and I got 4. So if you were to triple the amount of all-purpose flour you use in that recipe, you would use 4 cups instead of 1 1/3 cups. So in your new recipe, you write for tripling the recipe, the first thing you would write would be 4 cups of all-purpose flour. So your recipe would start with 4 cups of all-purpose flour. Then you'd move on to the next part of the recipe, which is 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. So you have 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda as if you made 1 batch, but you're wanting to make 3, so you're going to do 1/2 times 3. So to triple that 1/2 teaspoon, you're just going to do 1/2 times 3. Okay, so then we'll do 1/2 times, and if you're multiplying by a whole number, you can just put that whole number over 1. So our 1/2 times 3, you can change it to look like 1/2 times 3/1, because 3/1 is the same thing as 3. Okay, and then when you're multiplying, you multiply straight across. So you're going to do 1 times 3. That gives you your numerator of 3. And then you're going to do 2 times 1 on the bottom. 2 times 1 is 2. That gives you 2 for your denominator. So then you have, as your answer, 3/2. So you could say you could use 3/2 of a teaspoon of baking soda, but we know that 3/2 will simplify. So we need to think, how many times can 2 go into 3? So I have 3. Whoa. 3. How many times can I get 2 out of it? I can get 2 out of 3 1 time. So I have 3. Here's my 2. I can get 1 group of 2. I got 1 group of 2, and I had 1 left over. So there's my 1 group of 2, and I had 1 left over. So I changed that into my fraction. So I had 1 group of 2 with 1 left over. So 3/2 is equivalent to 1 1/2. So in the regular recipe, when you're just making 1 batch, you use 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. When you triple the batch, you're going to use 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking soda. So when you rewrite that recipe, you're using 4 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking soda. So then you would just move on to the next one, which is 1/4 a teaspoon of baking powder. So then you would just do 1/4 is how much you would use for 1 batch, and you're going to multiply it by 3 because you're making 3 batches. So this is the same. You set up the problem, 1/4 times, and you just put that 3/1, and you multiply straight across. So you'll do 1 times 3 for your numerator, the top of your fraction, and 4 times 1, the denominator, the bottom of your fraction. And that's how you'll solve it. And you just keep going down the list, multiplying each part of your recipe by 3, and then rewrite the whole recipe so that you would know how much to use if you tripled the batch. But okay, so then you'd rewrite the recipe, and then it asks you another question. It says, rewrite the recipe to make just half a batch. So now you want to make you don't want to make a whole batch of cookies, you want to make half a batch of cookies. So what you're going to do for that is on your 1 1/3 cup, so you start back at the top of your recipe with your 1 1/3 cups of all-purpose flour. That's how much you would use for one batch. But now we just want to make half a batch. So you're going to do 1 1/3 times a half. So that's what your problem would look like. So then you would multiply that together in order to see how much flour you would use for half a batch. And you would do this just the same as we did before. You can break it apart. You can do 1 times a half and 1/3 times 1/2. Okay? So 1 times a half, so 1 times anything is always the number itself. So 1 times a half is 1/2. And then for 1/3 times a half, you're going to multiply straight across. So 1 times 1 will give you your numerator. 3 times 2 will give you your denominator. So my numerator, 1 times 1 would be 1. My denominator, 3 times 2 would be 6. That gives me 1/2 and 1/6. But here's the next part of what you have to do. Now that I broke it apart and multiplied each part by a half, I have to add my answers together. So now I have to do 1/2 plus 1/6. So when we multiply fractions together, we can multiply straight across, but we cannot just add straight across. On addition and subtraction, you cannot just add or subtract straight across. With addition and subtraction of fractions, you have to find the least common multiple. So for 1/2 and 1/6, we have to find the least common multiple for 1/2 and 1/6. Okay, so I'm going to put it over here, 2 and 6, and I'm going to, so right there, actually I'm going to erase the top of my board. So we have 1/2 plus 1/6. We cannot just add or subtract straight across, so we have to find the least common multiple between 2 and 6. So let's do our multiples of 2. To do multiples of 2, we start with 2, and we count by 2s. 2, 4, 6. Okay? So we know we can already stop right there. 2, 4, 6. Then our multiples of 6, we just count by 6. 6, 12, and we can already stop because we see the smallest one that 2 and 6 have in common is 6. That's the least common multiple between 2 and 6. So to add 1/2 plus 1/6, we can leave our 1/6 the same because the bottom of that is already a 6. But we need to change our half so that the bottom of it is a 6. This is where we multiply. So 2 times what gives you 6? So we can look up here at our least common multiples for 2 and know that 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6. So down here, I'm going to say 2 times 3 gives me 6. Oh, 2 times 3 gives me 6. And when you're changing that, whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So 2 times 3 gave you 6. Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So then you have to do 1 times 3. And 1 times 3 gives you 3/6. So 1/2 is equivalent to 3/6. So now we go back up to our addition. So now our problem is 3/6 plus 1/6. And we add that together. So our new problem is 3/6 plus 1/6 up there in the corner. So 3/6 plus 1/6. So we do 3 plus 1 is 4. We do not add our denominators together. We do not say 6 plus 6 and get 4/12. Our bottom just stays the same. So you just bring your 6 over. So 3/6 plus 1/6 equals 4/6. You just bring the bottom over and leave it the same. You do not add 6 plus 6 to get 12. You just bring that 6 straight across and the denominator stays the same. You just add your 3 plus 1 to get 4/6. So your answer would be, oh, dropped my paper. Your answer would be that you use 4/6 a cup of all-purpose flour. So in your new recipe for half a batch, you only use 4/6 of a cup of all-purpose flour. Okay, now, and then the next one would be half a teaspoon of baking soda. That's how much you would use if you were only making one batch, but you're making half a batch now. So you're gonna do 1/2 times a half. And here, we're multiplying fractions. When you multiply fractions, you multiply straight across. So 1 times 1 is gonna give you your numerator. 2 times 2 is gonna give you your denominator. So a half times a half equals 1/4. So if you were to half your recipe, instead of using half a teaspoon of baking soda, you're gonna use 1/4 a teaspoon of baking soda. So to half your recipe, you're only gonna use 1/4 a teaspoon of baking soda. So to keep going, the next part of your recipe is 1/4 a teaspoon of baking soda, and you're going to half the recipe, so you're gonna do 1/4 times a half. So you just multiply straight across to figure that out. And you keep going down your recipe till you're at the very end, and then you rewrite the recipe so that it shows how to only make half a batch. And then it gives you a note for option 1. It says, and you would rewrite the recipe to make just 1/3 of a batch, and you do that the same way. You go through the same process all over again. And then it says you do not need to make a batch of cookies, just write the new recipe of what you would need to use. So for option 1, you do not actually have to use that recipe to bake cookies. Unless you want to, then you can. That's an actual recipe, but you do not need to actually bake anything if you do option 1. It just wants you to practice multiplying with fractions. So option 1 is just to help you multiply with fractions. And we were doing that before all of this. We were learning how to multiply with fractions. So it's a good review for multiplying with fractions. And if you need any extra help with it, just message me and let me know and we can walk through it some more. But it's just practice with multiplying fractions. You don't actually have to bake anything for option 1. Option 2 is follow a recipe with an adult in your home. So option 2, you would actually follow a recipe and bake something. And then option 3, you can always log into iStation Math and work on that for 30 minutes, or you can do Freckle Math, ST Math, anything like that. Extra Math, I keep forgetting to tell you guys about Extra Math. So if you need your PIN numbers for Extra Math, just let me know. You could even do Prodigy. I always forget to mention Prodigy. Do any kind of online math program that we use at school. And if you need any of your passwords for that, just message me. And then after math is reading. So option 1 is read a book for 30 minutes, write the title, the number of pages you read, and a summary. And then talk to somebody in your house about it. Talk about what you read because that helps you remember what you read. And then option 2 for reading is log into iStation Reading and work on that for 30 minutes. If you don't want to do iStation Reading, you can always do Freckle ELA. That's another option. So if you need your password for Freckle, just let me know. And then after reading, we go to writing. So writing today is write a letter to your favorite teacher, explaining why they are your favorite teacher. Give examples of things that they did that made you feel this way. Mail or give it to them. So for this, you're going to write a letter to your favorite teacher. So remember the other day when you were writing to somebody that you admire, we always start our letter with a salutation. So you always start with something like dear. So that would be the start of your letter, dear. And let's say the other day we used Mrs. Kelly as an example. So what if we use, let's say, dear Mrs. Peters. So maybe you had Mrs. Peters and she was your favorite teacher. You would say, dear Mrs. Peters. She's married, so you'd use the MRS, dear Mrs. Peters. And then you would write your letter to Mrs. Peters about why she is your favorite teacher. So make sure to include all those details about what your teacher did and why you like them. What did they do for you? How did they help you? What was your favorite part of being in their class? What makes them your favorite teacher? Include all those details because it wants you to actually send it to the teacher. So if you were to send it to that teacher and they were to open up and read it, they could read the whole letter and know exactly why you think that they are the best teacher ever. You know, you want them to know why they are your favorite teacher. So include all those details. Make them feel good. Include all those things that you liked about them and liked about being in their class. And also, if you decide to type your letter on Google Docs, so normally when you type a letter or type your writing prompts, like your opinion essays that you typed, and you click that share button up in the corner and you shared it to me, today, if you write a letter telling a teacher why they're your favorite teacher, click that share button and type that teacher's name in the little search bar and click their name, and it will email it to the teacher you're writing the letter to. So if you're writing a letter to Miss Rodriguez, you would go up and click share, and her name is Lisa Rodriguez. So you would type in Lisa and Rodriguez, and you'd find her name on the list of email addresses, click on her email address and click share, and that'll send the letter to Miss Rodriguez if she's your favorite teacher. Or if Miss Wilkinson was your favorite teacher, her first name was Shanda. So you type in, you click share, type in Shanda Wilkinson, click her email address, and share it with her. So if you type it on Google Docs, you can share it with whatever teacher you wrote the letter to. So that gives you a chance to actually share it with those teachers. Just click share, type in their name. If you need to know their name or need to know their email address, you can message me for it, or you can look on the school district website, and that will give you every teacher's name and their email address. So you can look them up, send them letters, let them know, or if by chance your parents are friends with them on Facebook or you're connected to them some other way, send them that letter. It would be good for them to get it, because all us teachers are working really hard to make sure that you have the help that you need. So it would brighten some teacher's day if you sent them a letter. So you can always share it with whatever teacher you write it to, or you can handwrite it, and the next time you see it, hand it to them. So that is your writing prompt for today. Write a letter to your favorite teacher explaining why they are your favorite. Give examples of things that they did that made you feel this way. Mail or give it to them. So make sure you include all those details so they know why they are your favorite. Okay, and then science. Science today is compare the weather for today with the weather from the last 4 days. So you're going to look up what the weather is like today and compare it to what the weather was like the last 4 days. So it says make a list that includes temperature, wind, and precipitation. So you're going to look up what the temperature was, how fast was the wind that day, and the precipitation. So if it rained, how much rain did we get? You will need to do some research to collect your data. This can come from newspapers. So you can look at the newspapers for the past 4 days to see all of that. You can look at the internet, or you can ask a parent to give you some realistic estimates. So if you don't really know, you can kind of make an estimate. And then it says write 2 statements comparing and contrasting the temperatures, wind, and precipitation over the past 5 days. Turn in your data and response. So you'd say something like, over the past 5 days, you could say Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday were hotter than Wednesday. or Tuesday and Wednesday were hotter than Monday, or Tuesday and Wednesday were cooler than Monday. So you just kind of compare and contrast what the temperature, wind, and precipitation were like. So you could say on Monday we got half an inch of rain, and on Tuesday we didn't get any rain. Or if it didn't rain at all for the past 5 days, you'd say on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it didn't rain at all, but we have gotten some rain this week. So you would just say something like that. And then the wind, on Monday, the wind was 2 miles per hour, but on Tuesday, the wind was only 1 mile per hour. So you just look at things like that. And I'm going to share my screen with you and show you a website that you can go to look that stuff up. So I'm going to share my screen here. And we're going to look at, hold on 1 second. Let me get to the right page. Okay. Let's share. Okay. So here, I just went to weather.com. So this right here, if you are searching online and you just type in weather.com, that part that I've highlighted in blue, that will take you to the Weather Channel where you can search for the weather for the past 4 days. So here, you just type in your city or zip code. So right now, I'm in Lavaca. So I typed in my zip code, which is 72941. You would type in whatever your zip code is there in Van Buren. And so I clicked Lavaca because that's where I'm at right now. You would type in Van Buren because you can also type in Van Buren here in this search bar. So it'd be Van Buren. And it'll pop up and give you Van Buren, Arkansas. So I'll go ahead and open up Van Buren. So Van Buren, in order to look at the weather for the past 4 days, you're gonna, up here where it says today, hourly, 10-day, weekend, or monthly, you're gonna click monthly. And then it'll pop up and it'll give you, right now it gives you the temperature. This is today, April 2nd. And it shows that currently the temperature is 72 degrees. It says that we have a chance of showers this evening, but it's not raining right now. It says that right now it is 72 degrees. So you wouldn't be able to see yet how much rainfall we've gotten because we haven't had any rain yet. So if when you are doing this assignment, we haven't had any rain, you just put 0 inches of rain because it hasn't rained yet. Let's see. And then here I can click on Wednesday. Wednesday was April 1st. So here's yesterday's. It tells you that yesterday it was 73 degrees. So for the temperature on Wednesday, you're going to put that it was 73 degrees. It did not rain yesterday, so we had 0 inches of rain. The only thing is this website doesn't tell you how windy it was yesterday. So you don't really know the wind for yesterday. You can that's something that you and your parents can kind of estimate, kind of make a guess at how fast you think the wind was blowing yesterday. Was it windy yesterday? It would probably be like 1 mile per hour if it was windy yesterday. And then you would look at Tuesday. So you just click here on this little thing, click Tuesday. And it tells you on Tuesday, it was 68 degrees and we had 7/100 of an inch of rain. So just a little bit of rain. So it's 68 degrees and you had 0.07 inches of rain. Once again, it doesn't tell you what the wind speed was on Tuesday, but that's another thing that you can kind of estimate. How windy did you think it was on Tuesday? Then Monday, 65 degrees, 0.86 inches of rain on Monday. And so you can keep going back, and then you can go all the way back to March. So this is something that you can play around with. You can even go all the way back to January on this calendar. So you can but all you need to look at is the last 4 days. So you'll look at today and the last 4 days. So you'll look at Thursday, April 2nd, Wednesday, April 1st, Tuesday, March 31st, Monday, March 30th, and Sunday, March 29th. So you look at Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Compare the temperature, compare how much rain we got, how much precipitation did we get, and it says to compare the wind. You might have to kind of estimate that, because the only one that's really going to tell you how windy it is today. And in order to see how windy it is today, you'd actually have to go to today's forecast. So you go back up to the top, click today, and it's telling you that today, let's see, today we have wind speed of 12 miles per hour. So that is today. You'll kind of have to estimate what the wind speed was for the rest earlier this week, Sunday through Wednesday, but it could be similar to today, or it could be a little less than what it was today. So that's how you will look up the information for the science part of your packet today. This is the Weather Channel. There's other websites that you could look at. There's one called WeatherBug. You could even look at like our local news stations like 4029 or 5 News. They might have that stuff. This is just one that I found, and I just went to weather.com, typed in, for you guys, I typed in Van Buren, and then I clicked monthly, and it lets me see what all of that was for this week. So I'll come back to me, get everything set up. And then at the very end of today, you have your specialty activities. PE, run in place for 10 minutes, alternating running fast for 1 minute, then slow for a minute, or play outside. So those were the same options we had yesterday. So you can choose one of those for PE, or if you don't want to do PE today, you can choose music, which says sing with the radio or write a song. So you can write another song. If you want to do music today, if you want to do art today, you can draw or paint a picture of your favorite spring weather activity or illustrate your writing prompts. And I know that for art, yesterday, Mrs. Moomy posted a YouTube video of an art project that she was doing that you guys could do along with her. And she tried to find things to do that project, find things that you have at home to do that art project with. So if you want to watch those videos, Miss Moomy is starting to post some art videos for you guys to watch. They are on YouTube. I'll see if I can send you guys to a link to those art videos, or post a link to those art videos along with this video. And I also know that Miss Clark is doing read aloud videos every day. So she's reading a book every day and videoing herself doing that. Those are also on YouTube. I've subscribed to her channel and connected it to our YouTube channel. So if you want to look up her page and watch those videos of her reading, that's an option for you to do if you want to do some library time. And I'll see if I can, I've subscribed to Miss Moomy's videos too, so I'll see if I can send you those links if you want to watch that video and do some art along with Miss Moomy. So that's always an option. So those are your specialty activities. Choose one of those to do today, or if you want to have lots of fun, you can choose all of those. So that is our work for today, AMI Day 9. If you have any questions or need any passwords, please message me, let me know. If you need any help, I'll try to explain it some more and help you out. But once again, don't stress too much about this. Don't overwhelm yourself. You'll work for a little bit and then go play or go have a snack. Don't spend all your time trying to figure this out. Don't stress yourself out too much. If you have problems, please ask me for help, or if you need anything, just let me know. I'm here to help you. Don't overthink it. Don't stress. Have fun, learn. Most importantly, stay safe, stay healthy, and remember that I love you and I miss you, and I hope I get to see you face to face again soon. So I love you guys. Thank you for watching today.